Trina is in her bakery, reviewing the security camera. The hum of the refrigerator is steady. The glass display case reflects nothing but darkness. Chairs sit upside down on the tables. The floor is freshly mopped, faintly smelling of lemon, cleanser, and sugar. On the camera, she sees movement. A shadow crosses the back hallway. It's brief, almost uncertain, as though even the darkness is testing the space. The security camera flickers. Static. The feed glitches once, then cuts to black. It was a compressed piece of what part of her 6 hours held. Ordinary moments, small freedoms, the quiet caregivers rarely step into. She has time to review her security camera 2 weeks after the burglary. But long before Trina began measuring her life in 6-hour increments, fault lines were already forming. Welcome back to Take Care Time, the tales and the exhales of caregivers. This is episode 2 of 6 Hours. We begin in Miami. Miami does not move slowly. It exhales heat. It inhales ambition. It is ocean salt and exhaust fumes, neon reflections and afternoon thunderstorms that roll in without apology. Tourists see beaches and pastel hotels. Residents see rising rent, unpredictable insurance rates, and small businesses that survive on thin margins and thicker hope. In neighborhoods west of the postcard skyline, bakeries sit wedged between tax offices and laundromats. The scent of Cuban coffee drifts through open windows. Spanish radio competes with traffic noise. It is here, in one of these blocks, where community is currency, where Trina grew up. Her mother baked because that's what her mother had done before her. Not elaborate pastries, not television-ready desserts, just simple things. Guava rolls, butter cookies, sweet breads that held up through humidity and heartbreak alike. Trina learned early that flour stretches further than people expect, that sugar can soften sharp days, that heat transforms what looks like nothing into something people gather around. She carried that lesson into adulthood, into love, into marriage. She met Sam Sr. in a community college accounting class. He sat 2 rows ahead, always early, always organized. He color-coded his notes. She doodled bakery logos in the margins of her spiral notebook. He noticed her first because she laughed easily. She noticed him because he had a plan. He wanted stability. She wanted creation. At first, those things felt compatible. They dated quickly, married young, rented a modest apartment not far from where she'd grown up. On weekends, they talked about opening something small, on their own someday, a bakery maybe, a place where numbers and flavor could coexist. When Sam Jr. was born, the room felt full of promise. He was quiet as an infant, observant, content to study the ceiling fan for long stretches of time. Trina remembers thinking he was thoughtful, that he was simply taking the world in more carefully than other babies. At 18 months, he wasn't speaking. At 2 years, he still didn't respond to his name. At 3, the word autism entered the vocabulary. Severe. High support needs. Language delays. Sensory processing differences. The diagnosis did not explode their marriage. It eroded it. Sam Sr. responded with spreadsheets, research, insurance breakdowns, therapy cost projections. He built columns of numbers because numbers could be controlled. Trina responded with immersion. She read late into the night, joined forums, called specialists, learned new terminology, practiced exercises on the living room floor while cartoons played in the background. They were both trying to save their son. They just didn't know how to save each other. Caregiving strain doesn't always arrive with shouting. Sometimes it arrives as exhaustion, as separate coping mechanisms, as two young people laying in the same bed, staring at different ceilings. The first individualized education program meeting was overwhelming. The room felt crowded with professionals. Acronyms flew. Goals were written in language that sounded clinical and distant. On the drive home, Sam Sr. talked about funding gaps. Trina stared out the window and imagined her son's future shrinking. It is a common fracture point. Studies show that families of children with significant disabilities experience higher financial strain, higher stress levels, and often uneven caregiving distribution. Many marriages survive it, many do not. For Trina and Sam Sr., the distance widened slowly. He worked longer hours. Overtime meant security. She became the default parent for therapy appointments, meltdowns in grocery store aisles, school calls, sleep disruptions, and sensory storms that left her hands shaking long after they ended. The bakery dream was pushed to someday, and someday kept moving. When they divorced, there was no scandal, no explosive betrayal, just fatigue, just two people who had loved each other but no longer recognized the terrain between them. Trina stayed in Miami, stayed close to the system she understood, stayed because uprooting a child with severe autism requires more than boxes and paperwork. The bakery, however, did not stay a dream. 3 years after the divorce, she opened Sweet Rice Bakery in a narrow storefront wedged between a barbershop and a shipping center. She chose that name deliberately because things can rise even after they collapse. Business was steady, not booming, but steady. Enough to pay 2 employees, enough to cover rent, enough to give her 6 structured hours on days when Sam Jr. attended his adult day program. 6 hours to bake without interruption, 6 hours to breathe until 3 weeks ago. At 2:13 a.m., someone entered through the back. When Trina first reviewed the footage with police, it felt surreal. The hooded figure moved slowly, not rushed, but frantic. Later, she slowed the video down alone. She noticed something that she hadn't seen that first night. The intruder didn't head toward the register immediately. He or she paused, turned toward the office door as if he or she knew it was there. The espresso machine was untouched, the flour inventory undisturbed. Only the register and the office drawer were even opened. The insurance adjuster called it a crime of opportunity, but opportunity usually looks messy. This looked deliberate. The most unsettling detail came later. A neighboring shop owner stopped by with coffee the morning after the break-in. "Yeah," he said, shaking his head, "a couple places got hit last month. Always the cash drawers." Trina's shoulders lowered slightly. "Did they spray your cameras?" she asked. He frowned. "No, just smashed the register." Only her camera had been obscured, only her back lens coated in white paint. Caregivers live in vigilance. It becomes second nature. You scan exits. You watch for shifts in breathing. You anticipate meltdowns before they start. Now, that vigilance redirected itself towards her business. Was she being paranoid or perceptive? The deductible was more than she expected. Insurance would cover some repairs, but not lost revenue, not payroll anxiety, not the tremor in her chest when the phone rang late at night. Sam Sr. offered to help with the deductible. She declined, not because she didn't need it, but because she needed one thing in her life to feel self-built. 3 weeks later, she climbed the ladder behind the bakery to clean dried paint from the security camera lens. The alley was narrow. The Florida thick air was damp. Her hands were steady, even though her pulse wasn't. When she reached the top of the ladder, she wiped the lens, cleaned, and paused. She looked beyond the fence, across the narrow service road. There it was, a small white house. For sale. Walking distance from the bakery's back door. 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds. No traffic, no commute, no lost time. For a caregiver, time matters. She climbed down slowly, stared at the sign. Then, still inside the time she did something she hadn't done in a long time. She acted before she overthought. She called the number. "Hi, this is Marlena." The voice was calm, grounded. Trina introduced herself, explained she owned the bakery behind the listing. There was a soft pause. "Oh," Marlena said, "I know exactly where you are. I've sold 3 houses in that area last month." Then almost casually, Marlena added, "I understand proximity decisions like that. I care for my mother. Her adult day program gives her about 6 hours also. So, I built my schedule around that. It's just the 6 hours, but I know it's not enough. But it's predictable, and predictable is powerful." They scheduled a showing for the next morning, still within the confines of a system measured Trina's autonomy in 6 block hours. As she hung up the phone, she glanced once more at the alley and glanced at the freshly cleaned camera, at the fence separating risk from possibility. 6 hours had given her time to look up. But looking up meant seeing more than she expected. She thought, why would somebody spray my camera and not the other businesses' cameras? I have to check into that. That day, at 3 p.m., the sky over Miami is the color of warm steel. Not quite storming, but heavy enough to threaten it. Trina pulls into the parking lot of Sam Jr.'s adult day program 5 minutes early. She is almost always 5 minutes early. Caregivers learn to pad their time, to build in margin, because systems rarely do. The building is unremarkable. Beige stucco, low roof line, a small fenced courtyard in the back where clients sometimes sit in plastic chairs under the shade umbrellas. It's not glamorous, it's not modern, but it is consistent. Consistency is currency. When she walks through the double glass doors, the air conditioning hits her like relief. The reception desk sits directly across from the entrance, framed by a corkboard covered in monthly activity calendars and laminated behavior charts. Terry looks up first. Terry has worked at the front desk for 8 years. She knows every caregiver by name. She remembers allergies, transportation schedules, preferred routines. "Hi, Trina," she says, sliding her clipboard across the counter. He had a steady day. Steady is a good word. Steady means no incidents, no early pickup calls, no sudden disruptions. Trina signs the form, exhales without realizing she's been holding her breath. Now, how was he really? She asked, lowering her voice slightly. Terry leans back in her chair. He participated in art, didn't love the music hour today, ate all of his lunch, needed a quiet reset around 2. But he's regulated. Regulated. Another good word. They walk down the hall together. The fluorescent lights hum faintly overhead. The walls are painted a pale blue, meant to calm. On one side, framed photos of group activities or group outings line the corridor. Beach days, holiday parties, a pumpkin decorating contest from October. When Sam Jr. steps into view, he does not run toward her. He rarely does. But he pauses, makes brief eye contact, and adjusts the strap on his backpack. Trina smiles. "How was your day, Sammy?" she asks gently. He doesn't answer in words, but he taps twice against his chest, a gesture he uses when something felt manageable. She nods. "Good. Did you have fun today?" she says. They walk back toward the reception area. Terry hands over his daily summary sheet. "Hey," Trina says casually, though it doesn't feel casual. "I'm looking at a property tomorrow behind the bakery. Might walk over during bakery hours." Trina's eyebrows lift. "Behind your bakery? On that little side street?" Trina nods. Terry smiles immediately. "Oh, gosh, that would be great," she says without hesitation. "Everything in one place like that? You wouldn't have to drive back and forth? That's huge." Huge. It sounds small on paper. 30 seconds of walking instead of 15-minute drive through traffic. But caregivers measure life in transitions. Car transfers, parking, unexpected days, the mental shift from one role to another. "What's the house like?" Terry asked. "I haven't seen it yet. It's scheduled for tomorrow. I just saw the sign when I was cleaning the back camera. When my bakery was burglarized, they sprayed paint over the camera lens." Terry's expression changes. Not dramatically, subtly. You get that camera fixed and be careful. Yeah, I will, Trina says. Terry's lips press together. People test security sometimes, just to see what they can get away with. It's not alarmist, it's observational. Terry sees things too. Receptionists at the day program are the unofficial pulse takers of caregiving communities. They hear the late-night pickup excuses, the insurance frustrations, the whispered financial worries at the counter. They know proximity matters. They know predictability matters more. Honestly, Terry continues, lowering her voice slightly, having your home and business that close, that kind of flexibility, that's the stuff most caregivers don't even get to consider. Flexibility. Trina feels the word land differently because flexibility doesn't mean freedom. It means less friction, less lost time between roles, less space for things to fall apart. She thanks Terry and guides Sam Jr. toward the exit. Outside, the air is thick again. A storm is gathering somewhere offshore. The sky feels swollen with pressure. In the car, Sam Jr. stares out the window. Trina glances at him in the rearview mirror. You like your days there? She asks softly. He rocks slightly, then stills. She doesn't push. Caregiving teaches you which questions need answers and which questions just need space. As she drives back toward the bakery, the alley flashes briefly in her peripheral vision. The fence, the newly cleaned camera lens, the small white house just beyond it. She imagines the mornings, viewing the house during tomorrow's bakery hours, walking back before pickup, no traffic, no buffer. 6 hours compressed into pure function. There is something almost mathematical about it. 6 hours minus 15 minutes of commute, 6 hours minus unexpected parking, 6 hours minus mental transition. What remains feels larger. But beneath the calculation, another thought flickers. If someone knew the layout of the bakery, if someone took the time to observe the camera, then proximity might simplify some things and complicate others. Caregivers understand risk in layered ways, not just physical safety, but financial safety, emotional safety, system stability. Moving closer to the bakery would mean convenience. It would also mean her entire world, caregiving and livelihood existing within a single block. If something went wrong, everything would be affected at once. As she pulls into the bakery parking lot, she notices something she hadn't before. The alley feels more narrow. Or maybe she's just seeing it differently now. Inside, she turns on the lights. She checked to make sure her employees had closed down everything as they should. The familiar scent of sugar and yeast settles her slightly. She glances at the security monitor mounted near the office door. The lens is clear now, but clarity doesn't erase memory. Tomorrow she will step inside that White House. Tomorrow she will measure possibility in square footage. Tomorrow, 6 hours will hold more than routine. They will hold her decision. And somewhere beneath the hum of the refrigerators and the threat of coming storms, the question remains, was the break-in random or was someone paying attention? The next morning arrives, humid and bright, as a storm from the night before decided to circle elsewhere. Trina unlocks Sweet Rise Bakery at 6:15 a.m., the metal grate rolling upward with a familiar rattle. Juan is already inside, trying on his apron. Juan has worked with her for 3 years, reliable, early 30s, quietly observant. He started as a part-time counter worker and slowly learned to handle the ovens, the books, even vendor calls when she was tied up at appointments. He knows about Sam Jr. He knows about the 6-hour window. He knows not to schedule deliveries too close to pickup time. As Trina sets her bag down behind the counter, she glances at the clock. 8:52 a.m. Time to take Sam Jr. to his program. Program drop-off went smoothly. No disruptions, no hesitation at the door. 6 hours officially begins at 9. I'm going to step out for a few minutes, she says, pouring her coffee from the first brew pot. There's a house behind us I'm going to look at. I'll be back before lunch rush. Juan's eyebrows lift slightly. Behind us, he asks, walking toward the display case to rearrange pastries. Yeah, on that little street Past the alley. He nods slowly. That would be a great location, he says without overthinking it. You could check on things faster, no traffic. Traffic. In Miami, traffic is a character all its own. It steals time. It delays plans. It turns short distances into negotiations. Trina smiles faintly. That's what I was thinking. Juan wipes his hands on a towel and leans against the counter. Good luck, he says. She appreciates that he doesn't ask about finances or fear or the burglary, just luck. At 9:07 a.m., she steps out the back door. The alley is brighter in the morning light. The air still carries a faint metallic scent from where the camera had been sprayed, or is that her imagination? She glances up instinctively at the lens. Clean now, reflective, almost watchful. 30 seconds. That's all it takes. She crosses the narrow back road and approaches the small white house. Up close, it looks slightly older than it did from the ladder. A modest single-story structure, pale paint beginning to peel at the corners, a small front porch with chipped railings. 2 narrow windows flanking the door. The for sale sign stands planted in a patch of dry grass. A small sedan is parked at the curb. As Trina approaches the driver's side door, a woman steps out, adjusting a folder under her arm. For a moment, neither of them speaks. Then recognition flickers. Marlena? Trina says slowly. The woman tilts her head. It's subtle at first, a narrowing of eyes, a search through memory. Your Sam's mom, Marlena says, and then her expression softens fully. From Westbrook Elementary. Trina exhales surprised. Yes, 3rd grade. You were in the pickup line every day. Marlena laughs gently. My niece was in that class. I used to volunteer during reading blocks. The memory settles between them, not dramatic, not sentimental, just a shared point of a timeline neither of them expected to revisit. Back then, Sam Jr. had been smaller. His differences more misunderstood than defined. The elementary school years were filled with IEP meetings, cautious optimism, and the strength of exhaustion of early diagnosis. Now, they stand in front of the house neither of them planned to be connected through. Miami is like that, large and small at the same time. I didn't put that together yesterday, Marlena admits, unlocking the front door. It's been a while. It has, Trina agrees. The door swings open. Inside the house smells faintly of dust and citrus cleaner. The living room is compact but bright. Sunlight filters through the thin curtains, catching particles in the air. The floors are worn but intact. The kitchen is narrow, but the appliances look recently updated. Trina steps inside slowly, measuring not just space, but movement. Where would Sam sit? Where would sensory overload build? Where would quiet exist? Marlena watches her, not pushing, not overselling. You said the bakery is right behind the fence? She asks, gesturing toward the sliding door. Trina nods. 30 seconds, maybe less. Marlena walks toward the back and slides the door open. The alley is visible through a chain-link fence. From this angle, Sweet Rise Bakery's back door is clearly in sight. Proximity. Clear, immediate, almost intimate. You'd be able to see your building from here, Marlena says thoughtfully. Trina steps closer. She can see the ladder still leaning against the wall where she cleaned the camera. She can see the edge of the bakery sign. She can see everything, and that visibility feels reassuring and exposed. Marlena closes the sliding door gently. I know what 6 hours feels like, she said quietly. You spend half of them preparing for the end of them. Trina nods without thinking. It's true. Drop-off time at 9, mental countdown beginning at noon. By 2:15, you're already anticipating pickup. The clock doesn't just move forward, it presses inward. I built my schedule around it too, Marlena continues. My mother's program runs from 9 to 3, so I show houses between 9:30 and 2. I don't schedule anything that risks running over. Does it feel like that's enough? Trina asked before she could stop herself. Marlena smiles faintly. Oh no, not even close. But it feels predictable, and predictable lets you build. Build, the word again. They move through the bedrooms, one slightly larger than the other. The bedroom, modest but workable. The roof recently inspected. The plumbing updated 3 years prior. It's not a dream house, It's a functional house, and for caregivers, function often outranks fantasy. Standing in a smaller bedroom, Trina imagines a quiet sensory space, soft lighting, weighted blankets, familiar textures. Standing in the kitchen, she imagines quick lunches between baking cycles. Standing in the living room, she imagines exhaustion at 8:30, when both businesses and caregiving would be only steps apart. No commute, no buffer, no separation. The burglary flickers through her mind. From this vantage point, she can see how someone might study the alley, see patterns, see when lights go off, see when the routines settle. If she moved here, would she be simplifying her life or compressing every vulnerability into one address? Marlena senses the shift in posture. It's okay to take time, she says gently. Proximity solves some problems. It creates others. Trina looks at her. You think someone knew my layout, she says quietly. Marlena doesn't overreact. I think small business patterns are visible if someone watches long enough, she replied carefully. That doesn't mean it was personal. Doesn't mean not the same as wasn't. Outside, a truck passes down the alley. Both women instinctively glance toward the sound. Caregiver reflex, always aware, always scanning. Inside 6 hours, there is barely space to be unaware. As they finish the tour, Marlena hands her a printed sheet with a price breakdown. Monthly mortgage estimate, property tax, insurance. Trina's eyes drip down the page. The deductible from the burglary still sits unresolved. Payroll remains steady but tight. Adult day program overage fees could happen. 6 hours remain 6 hours. But from this porch, Sweet Rise Bakery looks almost reachable by hand. For the first time since the break-in, possibility feels heavier than fear. And that weight is unfamiliar. Next time on 6 Hours, Trina stands inside the small white house behind her bakery, close enough to see the ovens from the back porch. Realtor Marlena shows her what 6 hours can look like when you build your life around them, but proximity solves one problem and may create another. As Trina runs the numbers and replays the security footage one more time, 2 questions refuse to settle. Will she put in an offer? And was the burglary truly random? Or was someone paying attention? 6 hours can change everything, but only if they're safe to use. 2 things before we close today. I want to speak directly to the caregiver listening. If you are measuring your life in 6-hour blocks, if you are calculating commutes, appointments, transitions, and how much you can realistically fit inside a single stretch of time, I see you. That's exactly why I created the Take Care Time Respite Box. It's not all about adding more to your plate. It's about placing something intentional inside the time you already have. Every respite box is thoughtfully curated for caregivers, with items designed to help you reset your nervous system, reflect, breathe, and reconnect with yourself in small, meaningful ways. It could be a journal, a puzzle, a calming product, a reminder that you matter too, because 6 hours shouldn't disappear into survival mode. You can learn more about our current respite box at takecaretime.com. 6 hours is precious, and you deserve something inside those hours that belongs just to you. Secondly, before we end today, I want to hear from you. Have you redesigned your life around 6 hours? Have you moved closer to work, changed your schedule, built something inside the limits you were given? Or are you still waiting, like Trina, trying to decide whether change is worth the risk? You can share your story with us at podcast@takecaretime.com. We would love to hear from you. With your permission, your experiences may be woven into future episodes because caregiver stories deserve to be heard, not hidden. Please note that this episode features reenactments and dramatized details. While in most cases the exact verbatim dialogue may not be known, all dramatizations are grounded in thorough research and crafted to honor the stories shared. To respect the privacy and confidentiality of individuals involved, names and some identifying details have been changed. Until next week, take care.